We would like to honor Mrs. Bacon Chaffee because she taught at the Carleton School. She may be the only person around who taught at a country school. So we'd like to present these flowers to you. Georgiana's going to give you the flowers. Thank you for coming tonight, and thank you for teaching at a country school. Now we'll get started. Most country schools started in the 1880s and closed in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. Local farmers usually donated the land that the schools were built on, and the schools were usually named for the families. Each school day started with the Pledge of Allegiance. The schools had one dipper for water for everyone, so that if one student was sick, they all got sick. Some teachers showed students how to make cups from tablet paper rolled funnel style. These pictures are the Little Red Schoolhouse on Meisner Road. Red brick, I should say. Red brick. People from the museum went there one day. Washington and Lincoln pictures were on the walls along with the American flag in the classroom. The schools had spelling bees and baseball games with other country schools nearby. One first-hand account tells of kids piled in the teacher's car to go to another school for a ball game. And when the car was full, they got as many more in the trunk as they could. There's Fritzy Snyder, and I believe it's a Mr. Simons at the Red Brick School. The Bell School on Rail Run Road east of Wadhams, close to Vine. Bell School. Peter Bell donated the land for the Bell School, and it was named for the Bell family. One of our longtime volunteers, June Ingalls, is the daughter of Omer Bell and granddaughter of Peter Bell. The family helped to build the school, and as you can see, it's a house now. The log home was where Omer lived as a child. It was located just west of the school on Rattle Run, between the school and where the house on the corner is. In 1893, the teacher was Charles Robinson. Other teachers over the years were Blanche Kennedy in 1920, Sadie Saunders in 1921. The 40s and 50s brought teachers Eleanor Douglas, Ethel McGarry, Miss Benner, Mrs. Teal, and Elizabeth French. Here's some Bell School kids. Lunch hour in winter would find students skating on ponds around the school. Sometimes students threw spitballs, and one young lady in particular was caught by the teacher and made to write a 500-word essay. We think her name is June. Other games played by students at recess were anti-over, where you threw the ball over the building. Also played were Red Rover and marbles and tag. Here's some more kids from the Bell School and teachers. Family names at the school were Distorath, Armstrong, Schaefer, Williams, Stein, Weidenbach, Clemmer, Brinker, Yipe, Myers, and Snyder. In 1945 or 46, a plane crashed north of the school and the pilot and co-pilot were killed. French pilots were being trained here. The planes hit and the other pilot bailed out, landing in Belfort's field. The plane that crashed north of the school nosedived into the ground and had to be dug out. First-hand accounts tell of the windows in the school breaking and some students were cut.
If anybody has an article relating to that, we'd love to have it. A newspaper article.
We can't find anything, and we'd sure love to have it. Okay, this is when my sister was in the 7th grade when they closed the Bell School. So you might see some people in there. Mrs. Teal was the teacher. You might see some students in there that you know. Years ago, Eleanor Schaefer was the teacher at the Bell School, and they gathered up all the snow from the whole yard and made a snowman. Then the other picture, our students, Rosemary Dandrin Bedford, Beatrice Bashan McLeod, Teresa Williams Schmidt, and Ina Disserath at the Bell School. In 1977, when it was a home, there was a fire in the building. I don't remember all the details or how much damage, but as you can see, it must have been a little bit bad. And the person looking out the attic window, I do believe, is my husband. I have a couple stories on the Bell School, just 1 minute. Does everybody remember how you spell arithmetic? Right. A rat in the house might eat the ice cream. How about geography? Going home yesterday. Oh, dear. When I went to Bell School, if Mr. Russell Beach was coming along, when I was walking home, I'd get a ride with the mailman. You wouldn't ride with the mailman today? And Sept, whoops, I'm losing it, aren't I? Not working.
Did you hit the switch? Is there a switch on there, Bob?
You may have one.
I might have. Try again. There we go. I shouldn't put my arm down there. Okay, and when Sally Bashan told me that when those girls were walking to school on Rail Run Road, sometimes Dr. Ross, everybody remembers him, he would give them a ride to school. Imagine riding with Dr. Ross. That was rock and roll. And we used to be able to put potatoes on the stove, and then we'd have a hot potato for lunch. And the other story I have to tell, Hazel Barshaw would always get someone to play Santa Claus at our Christmas program at country school. So when I was 8th grade, Santa Claus, I had no idea who he was, but eventually he turned out to be my husband. Because he would have been a senior. So anyway, the pay for being Santa Claus, maybe Sue can correct me if I'm wrong, was a case of beer. So Bill and his buddies, Wayne Barshaw, Charlie Westbrook, whoever, they could party after being playing Santa Claus. Fun times back then. Okay, you can. Okay, now we go to the Big Hand School. Was at the corner of Big Hand and Allington, which it still is. William Francis Woodward of New York State donated land in 1858 and $1 for the school. The first log building was built in 1858. Men and women teachers received different salaries. 1876, men $84 for 3-month term, women $45 for the same. Winter term was the end of corn husking in the fall to oat sowing time in the spring. Father Walter Swalfer attended Big Hand School. The last class was 1961, before school was annexed to East China District. Teachers mentioned were Rosamond Yipe Endress, Hilda Bathy, Teal, Evelyn Conklin Yipe, Frances Warren, Eleanor Schaefer, and Bertha Brown. June Engel's sister Loretta recalled when their father hauled milk to the creamery in St. Clair, the children would watch for his return trip because he was bringing the ice cream for the last day of school. Okay, Georgiana. The Wright School was built in 1864. The district bought the land from the Rettingers to build the school. At one time, the school was divided and had 2 classrooms. One of the teachers was named Ward, and it was located on St. Clair Highway. The Wright School bell is currently at the China Township Hall, and they have plans to display it in the near future. This is some students back in 1923. Yeah, they did wear knickerbockers. And I think it was cool, that little girl with her arm around the one in front of her. It was nice. They took care of their younger siblings. This was 1913-14, Wright School students. Another 1912. Someone knew the students because obviously they put numbers on the names in front. 1912, same school. And these are some souvenir gifts given out by the teacher at the end of the school year. And I believe the teacher was Jessie Balfour, and she was the grandmother of one of our classmates, Joanne Delore Kleeman. Peggy Homburg will come up right now and read a poem written by one of the people at the school.
This is called The Close of School. The school is out. The school is out, proclaimed they, one and all. The school is out. The merry shout resounds from room and hall. And bustling here and there they go, a joyous, happy band. With hearts and faces all aglow, they take each other's hand. And gently murmur out adieu, with many wishes twined, that life may in their pathways strew her flowers of sweetest kind. The school is out, to some, perchance, 'tis out forevermore, and they must now take up the lance and ply their laboring oar. And in life's warring field, the real life begin, and panoplied with wisdom's shield, their spurs deserve and win. To others, school days are not done, and time with lore unrolled has just with them his school begun, his treasures to unfold. The school is out, and now we part and go our several ways to mingle in life's busy mart and spend vacation days. But let us all remember well the lessons we have been taught. Let's let our lives their impress tell and live them as we ought. The old schoolhouse will be revered, and to our memories cling the chart by which our bark was steered when life was in its spring. And teachers, oh, the twigs entwined and taught them how to grow. Oh dear, their memories are enshrined in days of long ago. Oh wisdom, sweet is thy address, thy wooings never cease. Thy ways are ways of pleasantness, and all thy paths are peace. Thrice happy they who at thy fount drink from thy crystal springs. As eagles they shall upward mount above all lowly things.
Thank you, Peggy. The building is now owned by the Kielbasa family, the Wright School building.
Oh. Okay.
Okay, this is the Kiev School. It was originally called the Swamp School. Apparently it stood on swampy ground. It was a quarter-mile east of the current location. The Kieves family donated the land where it is now, and the name changed from Swamp to Kieves, of course. One picture shows Eleanor Schaefer as the teacher. Other teachers were Rosso, Stein, Radke, and Quinlan. In 2009, Kathy Keeves Foster purchased the building, bringing it back into the Keeves family name. It had been renovated into a family home, but the one-room school was intact inside. Eleanor Schaefer was one of the teachers. She's shown here. The museum owns the bell from the school, and that's what you heard ringing when we started the program. You don't want to stand too close, though. It rings really loud up there.
Did you want? Do you want me to go to the next one?
Yes.
Before you go to the next school, could I say a few words about the Keeves School?
Okay, come on up here.
Where is that school?
On Fredmore Highway, just
Highway
east.
by Allington Road, right near there. Well, both our son and daughter started school there. My daughter went to kindergarten and first grade. And my son, Alan, he just went to kindergarten. We loved that school, and Alan became a valedictorian, and my daughter is a very successful teacher in California now. And we thought it was a wonderful start for him. We were saddened when they closed it up. My daughter loved the school, and when she was about 8 years old, she wrote a little note similar to what the other woman read here. My schoolhouse is dying now, its bell no longer there. The desks where I once sat now are gone somewhere. Well, I guess the world is cruel. There is no one to care. But never will my memories die. They are left to share. We thought that was kind of nice. And but this Keeves School was great. My mother and dad grew up in a one-room schoolhouse, but I lived in Detroit, so I went city schools, and then now my own kids went back to a one-room schoolhouse. But my son ended up going to Stanford, and my daughter is a very successful teacher. She was even on television in California teaching. Not anymore, but for a couple of years she was. Anyway, I just wanted to express that how good a start they seem to get from this one-room schoolhouse. That's all.
Tell people your name. Tell people your name.
Well, I'm Jerry Erickson, my wife Carol, and my son and daughter was Amy Erickson and Alan Erickson. They're in their 50s now. But we still live within, we used to drive them to school in our old pickup truck. And we still live in the same place, about half a mile from the school, really. Right out Fredmore Highway, pretty close to the school yet. And go by it all the time, and we know Kathy. Is Kathy here tonight? I can't believe she's not here. The daughter that brought the school. Apparently not. But we were at that reunion that she mentioned a while ago. 2 or 3 years, 09 was it? I think she said. Yeah, that was, well, we thought the world of the Keeves School. Anyway.
Thank you.
McCormick School is district number 4. It's not there anymore, but it was Frith Road, the end of Pine River Road. Teachers were Ada Weeks, Palmer, Kate Ward, excuse me, Sadie Saunders, Gail Doug, Florence Peterson Moak. Students were Gracie's, Ulrich's, Saunders, Dudds, Greens, and Beaches. Students went across the road in the winter and slid downhill to Pine River. In 1934, McCormick School had a reunion with 500 pupils, former teachers, and residents of the community and had a picnic in Gracie Grove. I remember as a young child going to the McCormick School to get our sugar rationing coupons during the war.
Where was the school?
Frith Road, the end of Pine River Road, St. Clair Township.
If I could just...
Okay, now the Pink School. Corner of Gratiot and Palms. It's a heating and plumbing business now. In the winter, recess time was snowball fight time. Sometimes when snowball packed well and you got hit in the face, some blood would appear, but it got wiped off and play continued. Yeah, lawsuit. In the spring, it was baseball or softball season and time to play against other country schools. In the back of every country school, there was a huge wood or coal stove. One day, an unnamed boy named Merle put Limburger cheese on top of the stove. You can guess the outcome. Maybe school was canceled for the day. In the back row, there's Valley and Shirley Baumgarten, and there's Merle's way down at the right end there. It was a field trip to Greenfield Village. Yay, Merle. That's funny, they didn't call in bomb threats. They put Limburger cheese on the stove to get a day off. This is the North/Yankee School. It was first named the North School. It was later renamed Yankee. It stood on Yankee Road on the brow of the hill, according to an article we found. February 10th, 1933. The student names were Carey, Orris, Pung, Gavin, Lindsay, Clemmer, Lumley, Grote, Redfield, McIntosh, Radke, and Hartman. The students sold seeds to raise money to buy a flag. Guy Carlton was the first teacher there in 1910 and 11. The Yankee school bell will soon be displayed at the St. Clair Township Hall on Bartlett Road. Hathaway School, the original school, was built in 1903. Later, a new brick school was built in 2627 for $10,000, which I guess was a lot back then. Teachers were Harold Rankin and Walter Trumbull. Hathaway School was used until 1954, when the East China Elementary School was completed. Later, it became the East China School District Administrative Offices until 1981. Each fall, Walt Delore would climb the flagpole to put a new rope up. He was paid $1 for the job. Student names in 1924 were Ruff, Schaefer, Burton, Miller, Conant, Dandrin, Chadwick, Giroux, Bark, Wallace, Lindsay, Bondi, Barney, Bond, Gillette, Bone, Havens, Hoover, Roof, Rumsey, Burkirk, Gina, McLaughlin, Stanovich, and Sherba. Here's the Carleton School, St. Clair Highway and Indian Trail, named for Samuel Carleton, born in 1799, who owned many acres in the area. And what is different about the Carleton, they had a basement. In the latter part of the 30s, the King's School at Puttigat and King Road was annexed to the Carleton district. Teachers were Nellie Bodette Rude, Isabel Shaw Amy, Mabel Simmons, Elda Horton Limburg, Miriam Bacon Chafee, Lucy Foley, Alice Walters, Jean Banning, Letitia Rude, Anna Leach, Harold Rankin, Elma Mackley, and Ethel McGarry. Carleton annexed to East China in 1961. And as Mary Parsons Cook was saying, there was an indoor restroom, but the boys had to carry the water in to flush the toilets. In the winter, parents would bring sleighs drawn by a team of horses to school, and they would visit other rural schools and have a spell down. Somebody said it's the Alice house in the background. Might that be right, Mary?
Yeah.
Okay. 1939, it said Carleton School. The buttermilk train ran behind the school. It made 2 trips a day, and the children would run to the fence to watch it pull into the station to load and unload. And I believe that went from St. Clair to Richmond. The Carleton School had a mother's club, and some family names were McIntosh, Zoss, Riley, Markle, Dietland, Westrick, Kammer, Mazeski, Shunk, and they included Wilma Bauman. There's a picture that says it was all county play day in 1938, and this picture at the bottom says 1936, so we don't know who they are. In September of 1986 at 2:23 a.m., a fire was discovered at the Carleton School, and it was a suspected arson. Tretine School, located on the southeast corner of Meister and Starville Roads. It was named after a settler named Carl Tretine. A second school was built in 1899. Student names were Froh, McCalla, Osterlin, Genshaw, Wenner, Frank, Dragmiller, Walters, Beyer, Gildenstein, and Sherrill. The school was annexed on April 13, 1959 to East China District. Teachers were Mann, Wheeler, Dewey, Cook, Draves, Baker, Morrison, Douglas, Stratton, Frank Burns, and Betty Mann. Bell River Mill School at Indian Trail and Reamer Road. Unknown exactly when the school was built, Henry Radke sold land for the school. In 1883, Louise Estella Sparks was the teacher. The small red school west of George Radke Place on the John Zaich farm was united with the blue Bell River Mill School to become a 2-room school with 2 teachers. Juanita Gibbs DeMars fondly remembers jumping over the boulder in front of the schoolyard. You can see it there near the tree. Teachers' names then were Adele DeShane, George Tripp, Will Quick, Lily Roach, Walter Tripp, Clarence Dudley, Julia Hammond, Mary McMichael, Julie Krantz, Katie Krantz, Jessie Balfour, Walter Trumbull. Wages were $20 a month, and the school term was 2 months. In 1906, the school term was 9 months. 8th grade class on 1900 was all boys. Last day of school, they had a picnic on Stag Island. Doesn't say how they got there, but... In 1907, Clarence Dudley taught the grammar school class for $45 a month and also did the janitor work. He built fires for both rooms and earned a grand total of $52 a month. Mary's going to read a letter given to us by one of our classmates who went to the Bell River School. Should I censor it first? Shunk? Bill Shunk started school in 1945 at Bell River Mills. Our class consisted of 5 boys and 3 girls. They were Juanita Gibbs, Carol Sinowski, Patricia Frantz, Emil Welser, Vaughn Amy, Gerald Westrick, Ken Zoplitz, and Bill Shunk. Patricia, Ken, and myself all lived on Reamer Road. We either walked or rode our bikes to school, which was 2 miles and uphill both ways. If the weather was bad, one of our parents would take us to school. At this time, World War II was going on, and everybody in the school was asked to collect milkweed pods. I remember doing that, Bill. And we put them in onion bags and hung them on the fence to dry. Then they were sent to the government to make life jackets for the military. Our school didn't have water. We took turns carrying water from the neighbors. Each toilet got 5 gallons a day. The toilets consisted of a 12-inch pipe going down in the ground about 14 feet, and the toilet sat on top. No septic system. There was a student in charge of the furnace, which was wood and coal, and he had to have all the coal scuttles full and the ashes emptied when school let out. There was a designated person along with the teacher who would ring the school bell. As time went on, we lost Patricia Franz from our class due to a rheumatic fever and too many days absent from school. The same thing happened to Emil Welser, who had undulant fever. This was caused from drinking unpasteurized milk. We had 4 kids added to our class at a later date, and they were Bob Amy, Nancy Crowell, Dave Dixon, and Phil Bolak. Bob moved to St. Clair shortly after. Our school district had too many students for one teacher, so they sent the 7th and 8th grade to St. Clair. When I reached 7th grade, our class went to St. Clair High School. The next year, the 2 school boards got into a heated argument over tuition. My dad was on the school board, and he wasn't about to let St. Clair put a gun to his head. They had a meeting the night before school started, and I found out in the morning that we were going back to Bell River Mills. Yay! Of course, this was too many students for one teacher, so they decided on half days. Kindergarten through the 5th grade went in the morning, 6th, 7th, 8th in the afternoon. We used to beg the teacher to take us to other schools to play softball. The whole team would get in their car and in the trunk, too. Most of our games were with Wright, Carleton, and Dean schools. Sincerely, Bill Shunk.
Jones School, located in Division and Ellsworth Roads. Students made their own toboggans and they'd slide down the hill at noon hour. Teacher names were Blake, Fenton. One teacher had a switch to hit the students who misbehaved. Can you see that happening today? Maybe needs to. Lawsuit? In the early years, there would be a play day at Griddles Park. The Jones, Pink, Wright, and Adair schools would participate. When the school closed, the building was sold and the property went back to the Liebetrow family. The school was annexed to East China in 1962. Cabasa, Liebetrow, and Tackerberry were a couple of the families attending this school. Adair School. The former students of Adair School were Vic Brinley, Dwayne Young, Mary Lou Memke Mason, Janet Soss Stewart, Diane Soss Lipka, Tom Kenyon, Siobhan Kalman, Sarah Ruba Achatz, Rita Ruba Sayers. The Kalman family turned the school into a home later. One of the students from the Adair School, Bertha Clark, wrote 3 books about Bell River. We have 3 of these books on, well actually we have only 2 of these books on display up on the table in front, if anybody wants to browse through them.
I think the whole set is at the Red Brick School though.
I think so. 2 and 3.
Thank you.
And what road was the Adair School?
Adair Road. Adair Road, west of Palms Road, right? Okay, Kennedy School, corner of Mitchell, which is Wadhams Road now, and Newman Road, organized in 1873 at the home of Alex Kennedy, my great uncle. He was the first director. School was named the Kennedy. The land was donated by Chris Stein. In 1880, Robert Bannatyne taught for 4 months in the winter and was paid $80. 4 summer months, Esther McCormick taught and received $68. Teachers stayed with families in the district in the 20s. Alda Horton Limburg would join the children skating on Pine River or sledding. In the spring, trips were made to see maple syrup made at the Kennedy Sap House. Mrs. Mary Mitchell and her son Claire were officers of the district. Mrs. Eleanor Douglas boarded with the Mitchells and would read to Phyllis at nighttime, and she said it was so nice, Mrs. Douglas reading to her at nighttime. Other names in the district were Welser, Haslip, Miller, Ward, Webb, Scalise, Woolman, Wunderlich, and Cowers. And also, the Silks had a desk from the Kennedy School, and when they had their sale, they gave my sister Christine a desk, so she has a desk from the Kennedy School. And another story from there, Christmas programs at country schools were like a community get-together. Well, in 1935 or 36, my mother's brother dropped her off at the Kennedy School to watch the Christmas program, and my dad took her home, so that was the beginning of that romance. And when I was in kindergarten, if Joe Stein was at our place at the right time picking up our milk, I could ride in the milk truck to kindergarten to the Kennedy School. And on the left, the picture is my dad, and then it's Claire Mitchell in the middle, and Alec Jones on the end, the little picture.
You want to talk about the potato club?
Oh yeah, these boys and other boys had a potato club many years ago. It was probably like 4-H where they grew the potatoes and studied the best soil, the best fertilizer, whatever. It probably wasn't manufactured fertilizer then, it was probably good old cow manure. And then they would display it. And they would meet at the Grange Hall on Bartlett Road north of the Township Hall. We have some articles about that.
The Dean School goes back to the early 1900s. Minnie O'Hogan was the teacher in the years before 1906. Wages were $22 a month. According to a former student, the school was previously called the Cook School. Average class size was 15. My own late mother-in-law, Mabel Burns, taught there in the 1920s. One teacher boarded with the Richley family. In muddy weather, Mr. Richley would drive the teacher to school with a horse and buggy. One unfortunate day, the horse got stuck in the mud and died in the schoolyard. Another time, a young lady student came to school to take exams. She had smallpox, causing all of the students to be taken to the Charles Richley home to be immunized by Dr. DeGursey. The Dean School was sold at auction for $100 shortly after the 1958 annexation to Marine City. It was located on Marsh Road between Gertler and Springborn Roads. Poplar Grove School was on Division Road west of Carriage Lane. Student names were Balfour, Eisen, Ruff, Kalorchak, Horkey, Walters, Cramp, Lukasak, Reynolds, Kovacs, Delore, Panic, George, Zimmer, Priest, Hartline, and Schneider. The teacher was Mabel Westrick Johnson. One of her sons was in our class, Jake Johnson. Louis Eisen said when T. Priest drilled a well at his home, he piped it across the road so the school could have water. George Eisen went to Poplar Grove School through the 3rd grade and then had to go to town because there wasn't enough money to hire a teacher. This was another one of those souvenirs given out by the teacher on the last day of school. Apparently that's her picture. This is Jessie Balfour again, Joanne Delore, Kleeman's grandmother. Peggy has another poem from this school.
This one is entitled Then and Now. Say, let me tell you, the old man said, you're pretty soft today. You couldn't compete with your old granddad mowing away the hay. You never had to milk the cow in the dark of the early morn, and water the horses, and feed the hens, and give the pigs their corn. You don't know what it really means to work up an appetite for sausage and syrup and buckwheat cakes before it's broad daylight. You never had to walk a mile through fields all white and still, breaking a path from your own back door to the schoolhouse on the hill, to dry your feet by the red-hot stove with the teacher's kind permission, and wickedly wink at the little girls from your well-concealed position. To write your lessons upon a slate and carve your name in the hall, and get your drink from a water pail with one lonely cup for all. To fight your battles behind the school to prove you could hold your own, and once in a while to spell them down on a Friday afternoon. But you were fed on orange juice. You rode to school on a bus. Your hands were white and your face was clean. You were a hampered little cuss. I don't know what will become of you or how you'll make your way, for you haven't done the things I've done, and you are pretty soft today.
This is a 1937 photo of the class at Poplar Grove in China Township before it closed. 1929 class, same school. This is the Fossbender School. It was at the corner of Allen and Davis Road. Once a week, everyone recites something called a memory gem, such as penny wise, pound foolish, or a stitch in time saves 9. In the 1920s, George Meiselbach would hook up his team of bay horses to a 4-runner sleigh, take the students and the teacher to another school for a spell down. They took their lunches and ate them before the contest. Normally, a girl would be the winner. The straightness of a man's plow furrow was much more important for the boys. Report cards were handed out on the last day of school, and store-bought ice cream was a treat. This is now a private home.
This is the Bathy Columbus School. Many years ago they called it Bathy and then it changed to Columbus. Corner of Palms and Rail Run Road. The first school was a log building on the Conklin farm. In 1870 they decided to build a frame school and raised $200 to build it. Plan was delayed to raise more money. December 28, 1873, the committee leased land from Theodore Bathy for 99 years. The school was built and $55 was paid in 1874 and $350 in 1875. Teachers' names were Waterloo, Bathy, Gunnison, Gernison, okay, sorry, I couldn't read it all, Yipe, Burke, and Quick. A water well was drilled in 1916 by Mr. Letourneau, who was paid $100.45. It was an artesian well and flowed continuously. Many people stopped by to taste the water. Teachers were invited to pupils' homes to eat and spend the night. Families got together nearly every Friday night for a potluck meal. Cards were played and dancing was done to the violin playing of William Shanahan. Another person played the piano. Student names were Conklin, McKernan, Allington, Marden, Weeks, Quick, Zumba, Kroner, Bartell, Rabine, Evans, Ottenbacher, Hamilton, Morden, Lowell, Hamlin, and Pryor. The picture of 1910. Okay, the Mills School on Gratiot, near Airport Drive. A typical country school in St. Clair County in 1904. Mills School at that time had as its teacher Miss Cecil Babcock, later Mrs. Whitcomb. The frame school building on Gratiot near the St. Clair County Airport was replaced with a brick structure. It was later phased out of the school system.
The Clark School was on South River Road between River District Hospital and the Detroit Edison plant. Presently, the Hawthorne sign is where the actual school was located. It was torn down in the 1950s when the Michigan Iron and Coke required the property for dockage. Previously, the building of the school, Captain Clark kept the school in his home. The museum has the teacher's desk from the school, and this is a picture of it. It's really a beautiful desk. You can see it upstairs. These are some of the teachers' notes from the schools. I don't know if you can read them. Some of them I can.
Can you read them, George? I can read them on the screen.
Go ahead, Chrissy.
These are comments that were made in the school book and in the teacher's records book. Now, we're not telling you names on this one. I'm not even letting any slip out, okay? But these are some of the comments that the teachers made. Good in some subjects, poor in arithmetic. Might be tried in 5th grade. The next child, inclined to be lazy, might be tried in the 5th grade. The next child, promoted to the 5th. Absent a grade, must be tried again in 4th. Mischievous boy, good in studies, promoted to 5th grade. Good scholar, promoted to 5th grade. Good scholar, promoted, and then just failed. Good pupil, promoted to 4th grade. Let me get to the good ones here. Absent too much to be promoted. On one of the indications it said, he hasn't been to school in a while. We think he started going to school in St. Clair. Not very bright, must be tried and chart next year. Bright but absent a great deal, promoted to the 2nd grade. Very industrious, promoted. Very industrious, promoted to the 2nd grade. Very bright, promoted.
Oh my goodness, look at those pictures.
That's because I caught Chrissy putting a bad one of me up there. So I went and got my yearbook out and got a better one. We'd like to thank the following people for their generous help in this project. And the project started a year ago. When someone, Mary and I can't remember who said it, but asked about country schools. So on a really nice fall day last September, we rode around the county taking pictures of all the schools that were still there. So then our friends at the museum said, why don't you two do a program? So it's been a year, and we got our information from newspaper articles, pictures, first-hand accounts of former students. The people we'd like to thank: Suzanne Franz, Joanne Potter-Kinspotter, Beatrice Bashan McLeod, Merle Schmidt, Sally Delore, Mary Parsons Cook, Terry Chase, Juanita Gibbs DeMars, Christine Kennedy Fraley, Frances Muggelberg Walker, Joanne Delore Kleeman, Jean Curtis Ramo, Pat and Diane Schaefer, Sue Barshaw Hoover, Miriam Bacon Shaffey, June Ingalls, Todd Bigger, Charles and Peggy Homburg, Chrissy DiNardo Gorzen, and Robin Brisboy Chan. And to all the other museum volunteers, past and present, who made this project possible. Articles clipped and saved, stories written, and record books kept made this program possible. And if any of you have anything to add to it, we'd like to hear from you. Thank you.